Hello, this is Mark from Enchantment of Eternity here. Hopefully my microphone's working and it's not resorting to my default microphone because I have no one else here, so I can't test that. So tell me in the chat if that's the case because I hate that default microphone. I want to have good quality. Anyway, so this is just a real quick video mainly for my loyal subscribers, although if you're finding my channel for the first time, you're welcome here, of course, but I don't suspect many other people would with so many videos about Wonder Woman out there, although I'm not really, I don't know, I'll talk a little bit about Wonder Woman, which I just saw, but it's mainly, I want to give my thoughts about the DC Extended Universe, because this is something, I think I might have touched on this in a couple of other videos, but this is something I had really strong feelings on, and I never really got around to making a video about it because I have too much other stuff to do, and so I just thought I'd come on real quick and spew out some of my thoughts on this, because first of all, I'm not huge into comic book movies. In fact, for the 2000s, I hated comic book movies. If you asked me in between 2001 and 2011 what I thought of comic book movies, I'd be like, I hate comic book movies. I don't want to start to see it. Now, more recent years, I started to change my mind a bit about comic book movies because I've seen movies like X-Men Days of Future Past, Captain America Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. That sort of brought me along. So now I'm a bit more on board with comic book movies, but I'm still kind of iffy. And this is what I'll say about Wonder Woman. It's a really good movie. It's a really good comic book movie. It's not a really good movie. It's a really good comic book movie. And I'll say up front, I'd give it an 8 out of 10, which is a good rating, but most critics would, probably give it a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. And I think that's going a bit too far. Because the thing with Wonder Woman is, for a comic book movie, it's the best comic book movie it could be. It does everything right. It has good characters. It has good build up to the plot. It flows. It's interesting. It's engaging. It's got great action sequences, CGI, blah, blah, blah. So it does everything. It's the best comic book movie a comic book movie could be, but it's still a comic book movie, very much so. Whereas you get other movies like, say, Logan, which is not just a comic book movie. It leaves the confines of comic book movies. And I talked about Logan. I think I gave Logan an 8 as well, maybe even a 7, but I'd say I actually like Logan better because it's not just a comic book movie. It's all sorts of things. It's like a drama, an indie drama, and all this stuff. But I think the comic book tropes hold that movie back, whereas Wonder Woman is very much a comic book movie. And a lot of other critics have been saying this, and I'll just echo their sentiments, is that the third act it's just a generic comic book movie third act with lots of CGI, action all over the place. It just obliterates the senses. And I think it does kind of bring the movie down, in my opinion, because the movie is actually really good. It has very good character interactions, and this chemistry between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine was really good, and you really buy those characters. You really like those characters and want to follow them, and are genuinely interested in what happens to them. And by having this big explosion thing at the end, kind of did disservice to this character story, in my opinion. But it's a comic book movie, like I said, and for a comic book movie, it's good, but it is very firmly comic book movie, and that's why. Holds me back a little bit from it. But 8 out of 10 is still a good rating, so don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's this masterpiece that some other critics are saying that it is. Now, so I have been seeing a few movies over this summer. I say summer in quotations because it's actually winter for me here in New Zealand, but most in the Northern Hemisphere and American stuff, it's a summer movie season. But so I do the same thing that I do every year, where I make a list like around May or April, of the 10 movies coming out this summer that I want to see. And so I stick to those 10 movies, and at the end of the summer, I make a video of my top 10 summer blockbuster movies. So I put the 10 movies I saw in order. And so I've only seen 3 so far, and to be honest, most of the ones on my list this year are coming out to July and August. So there's a huge space, and like I saw 2 in May, Alien Covenant and Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Wonder Woman's the only one in June, and then July, August is when the rest of them are coming out. So we'll see, but so far, I'd say the list looks a lot better than previous years. Like, all these movies look at least mediocre. I think maybe the one that looks the most iffy about is Dark Tower. But then in previous years, I had to watch movies like Warcraft and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spy and San Andreas and stuff that looked pretty shit, to be honest, but I had to meet my quota of the 10. So this year is actually looking better. I didn't have any, or the BFG. Oh my God, the BFG. Fuck that movie. But yeah, so I always had to sort of put in these movies I kind of really didn't want to see. And this year I almost didn't do the same format because I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to force myself to sit through something I didn't want to watch, but I was able to find 10 movies that I actually generally would want to see, and I'd probably go to the movie theater. If not, maybe wait for DVD. But anyway, regardless of this list, and actually, I think this summer is going to work out better. Now, most of the ones have been coming out recently, like Pirates of the Caribbean, Baywatch. Those are the crap ones that I would be forced to watch, and I'm glad I'm not, because there's enough other good stuff where I don't have to watch crap like that. And oh God, nothing in this world, Earth, or anything could compel me to see the Transformers movie. Fuck Michael Bay, fuck Transformers. But anyway, that out of the way, let me talk about the DCEU, because that's what I promised what I'd talk about, because this is what I had a lot of thoughts on, because a lot of people, you see this all online, and I watched a lot of videos about this, and it intrigues me, because a lot of people are like, oh, the DCEU sucks, it's horrible, and then Wonder Woman comes out, and everyone's making videos where they're like, Wonder Woman, DCEU's actually made a good movie? Oh my God, and their heads explode or whatever. I have different feelings on that, because first of all, if you see my thoughts on Suicide Squad, I actually like that better than the critics. I'd actually put it on par with Captain America Civil War, where most critics would tell you Civil War is like 1 billion times better than Suicide Squad. And that's part that I like Suicide Squad better than the critics, and part that I didn't like Civil War as much as the critics in general. I think Civil War is a very overrated movie. It's rife with plot issues that really bothered me, whereas Suicide Squad, I think the critics have a lot of good points with Suicide Squad, but some of it I think they're a bit too overzealous about, like the montages. There are some people like, oh, this is just one big montage. I actually like the montages and the movie. I actually think they work. The characters were flat, and the plot was weak, and the third act was another big CGI beast. So don't get me wrong, it wasn't a great movie, but there was a lot of good moments. There was a lot of good acting. So I didn't think Suicide Squad was horrible. Now, getting into Batman versus Superman, I was never interested in this movie, to be honest. I was never, like I said, I don't like comic book movies in general, and I was never a huge Superman nor Batman fan, ever. I mean, I guess I was kind of a Batman fan when Michael Keaton's Batman came out. I was on the hype train for that, but other than that, I was never like huge. Like, if you know my feelings in the Dark Knight trilogy, I don't think it's the masterpiece that most other people do it. You know, I think it's all right. I actually prefer Christopher Nolan's non-Batman movies to those movies. So I wasn't like, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, salivating at the mouth at the idea of a Batman v Superman movie, and they went and saw it, and they're like, oh, this is total crap. So they had really strong feelings. This movie sucked. But I didn't have strong feelings either way. Like, when I heard about the idea, I thought it sounded dumb. And the thing that bothered me initially, like, I remember a friend of mine came to me and was like, oh, Ben Affleck is going to play Batman. Everyone's in the uproar. How dare they play Ben Affleck is going to play Batman in a new Batman v Superman movie. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. They're going to introduce a new Batman in the Batman v Superman movie. See, that actually bothered me a hell of a lot more than whoever the hell they cast to play Batman. That doesn't bother me. Ben Affleck, George Clooney, cast whoever the fuck you want. The fact that they're introducing a Batman, a new iteration of Batman, like rebooting Batman essentially, and introducing him in the Batman versus Superman movie, that bothered me. And I've had many of arguments with that friend since who totally disagrees with me, because my position is that is the wrong thing to do. You don't introduce a new version of Batman in a Batman versus Superman movie. He needs to have his first movie first that introduces us to this new Batman before he goes up against Superman, and that is the main thing. So ever since I even first heard of the concept of Batman v Superman, that was the main thing that bothered me, and it bothered me throughout when I was watching the movie. That's why I wasn't very interested. I waited for DVD for it, and once it came out, it was exactly what I thought it would be. It had no connection. I felt no connection to this Batman character. He seemed to just come out of nowhere with a past. And okay, so I get into a lot of arguments with my friend about this because he insists, well, we know Batman. You don't need to introduce Batman again because we're already so familiar. But that's what kind of bothers me is relying on you having background information from other movies, other comic books, and other TV shows, and that always bothers me because every movie thing should be independent. And this Batman in particular, they're taking some history, with the Robin dying and stuff, and putting it into this and expecting you to already be familiar with it because you read the comic books, and that annoys me because that bothers me because it's a new Batman, so we should actually learn to meet him first. Now, my friend has made comparisons to Spider-Man being introduced, this new Spider-Man being introduced in Captain America Civil War. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't as happy. Most audiences loved this new Spider-Man being introduced in Civil War, and I wasn't as happy with that personally. But it's still better than what the DCEU did, and here's why. Because Spider-Man wasn't he did seem thrown into Civil War to me, to be perfectly honest. A lot of people seem to like him. But regardless, it wasn't Spider-Man versus Captain America. It was Iron Man versus Captain America. Spider-Man was just a small part of that. So giving him a small introduction in there and then giving him his own separate movie was fine. Ultimately, it's nowhere near as bad because the issue is that they were banking the whole movie on Batman versus Superman. And in fact, the first part of the movie, we get it a lot from Batman's perspective. But the problem is it also served as an introduction to Batman, and that bothered me. If you're going to have this character be this, other characters like Black Panther, Black Widow, whatever, and Hawkeye, where they don't get their own movies first, they're introduced in small parts and other movies, and that's different. That's fine because they're not saying Hawkeye versus whoever. The fact that you're saying Batman is a main part, but is not just his movie, he's sharing it with Superman, then we need to see him first. If you see where I'm coming from, just the whole thing with Iron Man versus Captain America. We both know these characters, so that's why that versus works. And the Batman Superman doesn't, and even with Superman, we only get the one movie, Man of Steel, which I don't think is the worst movie in the world, but again, I didn't have strong feelings about it. It's a movie that I watched on DVD while I was playing video games at the same time. It's sort of an average, forgettable movie, and I probably would have forgot it even existed had people not continually brought it up because it's a part of this bigger extended universe or whatever. So I don't really have strong feelings either way about Man of Steel. I mean, obviously, I think it's an average or below average, to be honest, movie that's forgettable. And this is also in part in talking about the DCEU in whole. I don't particularly like Zack Snyder, and again, he's not a director I would single out as I hate, like M. Night Shyamalan or someone Michael Bay. Oh my god. Like, I don't have as strong feelings, or even Woody Allen. I can't stand Woody Allen movies. But anyway, I don't have strong feelings against Zack Snyder, but I don't particularly, he's just forgettable. He's one of those average, forgettable directors that I don't really care for his movies. Like, I never saw 300, and I never will because it doesn't look appealing to me. I don't care what everyone else says. I did not like Watchmen. I thought that was a highly overrated movie. It was just trying to be too dark, and you get that. And Sucker Punch and stuff, I will never watch because that looks horrible. So, and all the Zack Snyder's movies have that same sort of feel to it where it's like trying to be all edgy. Look at how edgy I am. And that's what I got out of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. It's part of the reason I didn't like it. Of course, Batman v Superman, the biggest issue with that is that it was trying to do too many things at once. It was trying to be Man of Steel sequel. It was trying to introduce the Batman. It was trying to have Batman versus Superman. And it was introducing Wonder Woman. It was introducing the concept of the fucking DCEU. It had Lex Luthor. It had Doomsday. That's why it failed. And we're getting to the heart of the problem with the DCEU and why Wonder Woman works and why it's so different from those other movies, even Suicide Squad, which I thought was okay, is because it's not trying to do too much at once. And that is the main issue, because you get the feeling that the DCEU was trying to play catch up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're like, oh, they already have all this stuff ahead. But the reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe works in the DCEU so far hasn't worked so much isn't because Marvel's better than DC. It isn't because Marvel has better characters in DC. In fact, arguably, the superheroes that DC has are more iconic and more well-known than the ones Marvel has. The reason why Marvel's done a better job is because it took its time to set up and to establish that universe. That is the only reason why it worked. There's no reason on God's green earth why a Thor standalone movie would work. Thor is such a forgettable character. Nobody really cares about Thor, but they do now because they were able to slowly ease you into this character and make him important, and then integrate him with these other characters that we slowly got to know and to learn about. And that is the only reason that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been as popular. And with the DCEU, you get the feeling it's a bunch of execs. It's not told by like storytellers like the MCU. You get the feeling it's told by storytellers who were slowly plotting this out and know what they're doing. But with the DCEU, you get the feeling that it's done by execs sitting around, CEOs or whatever, business people sitting around an office saying, let's look at this model, these graphs and pie charts. This is what Marvel's doing, so let's copy them. And there's no creativity involved whatsoever. Now, this is why Wonder Woman works, because it's the first movie that actually is a passion project. You hear a lot about Patty Jenkins, the director, how she's a huge Wonder Woman fan, and you get the feeling that Gal Gadot is actually doing really, like, putting herself into this character, and Chris Pine was amazing in this film. So this is the first actual passion project where it didn't feel like a bunch of execs looking at pie charts and graphs, and more importantly, it is taking its time to tell one story, just like the MCU did. It's getting you to know Wonder Woman. It's focusing just on her. It's not saying, let's introduce Aquaman. Let's introduce like 6 different villains. I mean, if this is what boggles my mind, because business execs, even if they look at it like pie graphs and charts and everything, they should know by now that any movie where you try to throw in like 3 or 4 villains in one movie fails. I mean, that's something you can quantify. Stuff like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Batman and Robin, any time where they try to throw in too many villains are too much at the audience, then the movie bombs. And it's amazing to me that they still do that. And then they're doing that with this dark universe, apparently. But I'm not even going to get into that. I have absolutely positively no interest in seeing that, and it's probably going to fail, although maybe some international numbers will keep it alive for a while, but I don't care. I'm not going to see it regardless. Anyway, just want to say in the chat, Cardinal Doomsday says, how are you, Mark? I'm doing pretty well, I guess. Yeah, just getting by. Anyway, cool. So, lost my train of thought. So that's the thing about the DCEU. So there were parts of Wonder Woman, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, where it starts with it does have some nods to the DCEU at large, but it doesn't it's not interfering. It's never like, it doesn't interfere with the movie itself, and most of the movie is pretty standalone. And again, that's something that MCU has done and proved works. So that's why this movie works, basically. So I'm still a bit skeptical about this DCEU going forward, because especially like the Justice League, they can't stop it because they've already started filming this, but it's too fucking early to do the Justice League. You need to introduce these characters first. And okay, getting back to Suicide Squad, it was the biggest flaw in that movie was introducing this new Joker. Everyone hated Jared Leto's Joker, and so a lot of people will say that's because of Jared Leto himself. He's not very good in this role, or the makeup is horrible. He looks dumb, but I don't think anyone would really be complaining about that if he was introduced the right way. I think the heart of the issue, the main problem, is the way that they introduced him in a Suicide Squad movie as a secondary character who's seen mostly through flashbacks. You don't fucking do that to the Joker. The Joker is like one of your best villains of all time. If you introduce the Joker, you introduce him as the main villain in a fucking Batman movie, not the goddamn side character in like Harley Quinn side story. Don Willie in the chat, Vala Magulis, Vala Dehiris. Don, good to see you. Anyway, so that's my ranting for so that's what really bothered me about the DCEU as a whole with Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad is you don't fucking introduce these iconic characters and just throw them in. Now, getting back to the Batman thing, this argument I have with my friend tons of times. One of the arguments he brings up is we don't need to see another Batman origin story. We've seen his parents die like a billion times. We don't need his origin story again. Fine. Don't do an origin story then. But you still need to do a separate individual Batman movie before trying to introduce him with all these other characters. So we get who this character is. It doesn't have to be an origin story. Don't have an origin story. Have started like later in his life, but we still need to get him. And that's the difference between, like, let's say Black Widow, Black Panther, or whatever, is that he is a main focus of Batman v Superman. He is a main focus of Justice League. So in order to have this main focus and not feel like an unfamiliar caricature, that's what he feels like. He feels like an undefined caricature. Like a lot of people are like, oh, Ben Affleck was great as Batman. I can't tell because I don't know who the fuck this guy is because we haven't been properly introduced to him. He's just, oh, this is that Batman you know from all this other media. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. You can't say, oh, you have to watch this other movie or watch this other comic book because it's not the fucking same thing as the new Batman. God damn it! Cardinal Doomsday and Ash says, are you still friends? You and this bloke, you are. Yeah, we're still friends. This is actually the only thing we really argue with, actually. And we don't bring it up that often, but whenever we do, we're like very opposite sides of that. But yeah, that's my thing about this Ben Affleck, this Batfleck. Like, I don't like, oh, how dare they cast Ben Affleck? Who fuck cares? Just introduce him properly first. And people say, oh, Ben Affleck was actually great as Batman. Maybe. I don't know, because I don't know who this guy is. We need to get a proper introduction, and that having that Batman v Superman was such a bad idea. And introducing the Joker and has a side character in flashbacks was arguably an even worse idea. It was the dumbest thing ever. So, bottom line, if the DCEU stops doing this and starts setting up the characters, then it could get back on track. So this is a great start with Wonder Woman. It was a good, critics are loving. And see, that's the thing. You get another thing I haven't touched about, where apparently there's a lot of fans who love the DCEU, so they bash critics and saying it's the critics' fault, and critics have a vendetta against the DC, and they're all Marvel lovers, and they're getting paid by Marvel, and of course all of that is stupid. It's nonsense. It's bullshit. It's and the critics are proving this by the fact that they love Wonder Woman. In fact, a lot of people, I watched a lot of videos where people were assuming, oh, the critics are going to bash Wonder Woman because they bash every single thing in the DCU because they hate DC and they're Marvel, they're paid by Marvel, or whatever, stupid bullshit. And of course that's nonsense. And of course they're proven wrong by the fact that the critics do love Wonder Woman. In fact, I think the critics, in my opinion, are being too generous to Wonder Woman. As I said, I don't think it's a masterpiece that they're holding it up to be. But it does go to show that it's not a DC versus Marvel thing. And it has to do with good writing, basically, and not trying to do a billion things at once, because this is the first DCEU, well, since Man of Steel, but again, that's next, Zack Snyder, and who cares about him, that actually did that. And so if they continue doing this, if they continue actually putting thought into their characters instead of just throwing shit. Now, that's why I'm worried about Justice League. The wheels are already turning on Justice League. I think the best thing for them to do would be to postpone Justice League, do this individual Batman movie first, and do the Aquaman movie first, and then do Justice League. But I doubt they'll do that because the money's already there. The money's already committed. So they'll probably do Justice League first. And I think Justice League still might work even if you do it before a Flash movie or an Aquaman movie, because those are relatively minor characters. I think it would have been better if they waited to do those first, but I think it still could be work. But the Batman movie, again, you're building him as the central figure of this Justice League. He's the one who creates everything. You need to fucking introduce him first in his own movie, god damn it. If you're gonna have him be the main character and the driving force of this Justice League movie. But I don't know, it doesn't look like it did. It looks like the Justice League will come out first. So, but it does look like after that, barring this Justice League thing, it does look like they are thinking in the right terms of doing the individual movies first. They're playing a Batman movie, an Aquaman movie, I think even a Flash movie I heard. I'm not sure about that. And so it could work. And again, I'll re-stress again that I'm not the biggest fan of the MCU. I don't think it's this great masterpiece. I think most of the movies are, good. I'd give most of the movies 7 or 8s. They all land in that, above average, but not great sort of line for me. So it's not like I'm a huge fan of comic book movies in general. But yeah, that is so that's why I probably never gave my feelings about this before, because it's not a huge thing. But it's online everywhere you go. Every sort of videos, just talk about comic book movies over and over again. So that's probably why I think about it more than I'd actually care to. But anyway, let me just a few things in the chat before I head out. Let's see. Colonel Doom says Lore Runner has done a rumination on Wonder Woman. Oh, I have to watch that. I actually been checking out a lot of Lore Runner stuff recently because I'm doing my own sort of rewatch for Voyager, which you'll find out soon enough, where I got something big planned for Voyager. It's coming out this week, I think, actually. But I'll talk more about that in a few days. So I've been watching a lot of Lore Runners. Voyager videos, and so I'd actually be interested to hear his thoughts on Wonder Woman. He's a very thoughtful guy. I don't always agree with him, but he's probably a lot more sort of articulate and analytical than I am, and sometimes I'm a bit jealous that I wish I could be a bit more analytical, but it's interesting hearing his thoughts. And I always pronounce your name wrong, even though Phil told me a billion times how to pronounce it. Yeah, I'm not going to try. Anyway, in the chat, you say, don't criticize Wonder Woman too strongly. A male friend got accused of creating and threatening work environment when he preferred Nolan Batman. Yeah, I'm not even going to. Yeah, that's something I want to touch with a 50-foot pole. I will say, all right, I will touch it slightly with that poll and say that I actually, one of the things I liked about Wonder Woman is the strong portrayal of women and a comic book setting. And I've heard other people like dismiss that as, I think there's one video, it might have been Red Letter Media or something, but someone were like, oh, they should actually look up to real life women heroes like Rosa Parks or whoever. Why is it important that there be a comic book woman hero? And that's not really being realistic. That's being a bit naive, in my opinion, to have that line of thinking, because let's be honest, in reality, small children, they don't really care about real life historical figures. What's more present and open in their mind are fictional characters. So I totally believe it is very important for women to see, or small girls to see, a strong women figure. And I do think there should be more of them, and there's not enough of them in Hollywood in general. So this is something, and I loved it. This is something I did love about the movie, is its strong portrayal of women, and how Chris Pine was actually more like just the supporting love interest. It was such a good spin to have the male actually be the supporting love interest for once. So I did love that aspect of it. But anyway, I'll take that 50-foot pole back and stop talking about that. Let's see. Donnelly says we need to do a Trek talk sometime. Oh, I'm down. Like I got Trek stuff going, coming up soon. Maybe when we get closer to Discovery. But yes, definitely down to do more Trek talk. Let's see. Said loved the movie. Only Logan pushed more emotional buttons. Yeah, I mean, I had my issues with Logan as well, but I think Logan was a better movie than Wonder Woman. I think it did have more heart to it, we'll say. Although there was a lot of heart to Wonder Woman, but again, Logan was less of a typical comic book movie than Wonder Woman was. Wonder Woman was very much confined in that comic book box, but for a comic book movie, it was very good. Yeah, Colonel Doomsday, whenever Discovery is. Yeah, we still have no idea when that. The talk is still the end of the year. I mean, we know that they're filming. We got a trailer, so it can't be that far off. I mean, I'd say the start of next year at the latest, but who knows? We'll see. But yeah, Don, we'll have to get together and talk Trek sooner than that. But yeah, definitely we'll see. Krajish, I think his name is, says, I'll rave about it. Great scenes, typically weak villains though, and needs new type boss fights. Well, yeah, I talked about that early in the video. The boss fight was bullshit. That's probably the worst thing about the movie. Anyway, I think that's my ranting done on this topic. Oh, Sir Giles, hello. Good to see you, but I'm about to go. Yeah, so... yes, thanks for watching. This is random rants. I probably won't talk about this more, but do keep an eye out. In August, probably towards the end of August, I will be doing my top 10. So if you want to hear my thoughts on all the big summer blockbusters, I will be doing a top 10 movie where I'll rank them in order. And so far, I will give you the spoiler. Wonder Woman is at number 1 out of the 3 movies I've seen, but I still have 7 more to go. So we'll see where it stacks after that. Yeah, but yeah, sure. Make sure to keep an eye out for that. So thank you all for watching. And yeah, I have a lot of Star Trek stuff brewing on my channel. So if you're into Star Trek, yeah, keep an eye out for my channel this week. And also, I'll be doing a leftovers discussion with Afghan Tomko tomorrow. So if you're watching the leftovers, which you should be, or it's over now, so watch what's already finished. You can check out our discussion tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. Okay, well, see you guys later. Have a good one.